I'm your handsome host, smiling extra heavy this week. I don't know why. We'll talk about that shortly. To my right, I got the man, the myth, the legend, Uncle Shally.
I
What's
can't imagine
popping?
why. What's up, bud? Long time no see.
To my left, I got some guy with some really bad wallpaper in the background.
Like
I don't know what
terrible.
it is. Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, Ohio State's own, Big Ten College Cottrell.
What's going on?
We got a huge show to get into. We got a lot. We're going to recap UFC. I don't know. Something might have happened with the pay-per-view. We'll talk about that shortly. We're going to recap UFC. We're going to talk about the Big Ten this week. We got our running backs list. We got our Mount Rushmores, Chicago versus Detroit. And then we go tennis, little golf. I don't really know much about these weird sports, but we'll talk about them. But let's get started because I can't wait to talk about the UFC pay-per-view that just happened. It came off to me. It's a recap. Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards, and at the end of the 5 rounds, the decisions on the scorecards, 49-46, unanimously, all for Kamaru Usman. Wait, that's not what happened. Minute left in the fight. The kick heard around the world. Leon Edwards KOs a Mount Rushmore fighter. Cottrell, I promised everyone we would open the show with your apology to the fans, and I don't want to let them down. So, Cottrell, I'm going to hand it away to you, and you can let the fans know that I was right last week. Khabib is a much better fighter than Kamaru Usman. You can start us off, brother.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, I'm not taking that back at all. Obviously he hasn't passed Khabib yet, but like I said last week, I 100% still believe that they're on the same level. Kamaru could have easily stopped fighting, 2-3 fights ago, and his resume would be very close to what Khabib's is. You can talk about domination all you want to, this and domination that, but you win fights. That's all I care about. There's a 0 at the end of your name, and if you fight long enough, eventually you're going to get knocked out or you're going to lose a fight, and that's just what happened. I know Khabib hadn't lost any fights or anything like that, but like I said, if you fight long enough, you're going to eventually lose a fight, and because there's only one guy who hasn't lost, and that fought a significant amount of time right now, and that's John Jones. You could talk about his DQ loss, but I don't really count that. Everyone knows that should have been a TKO instead of a DQ. And look at all the greats: Anderson Silva, GSP. At a certain point, they fight long enough, you lose. So I give Leon all the credit in the world. Leon, as much as I was sad to see Kamaru lose, Leon was so humble in his victory. Just great character guy. So it is a good thing to see Leon win this belt, but I fully expect Kamaru to come back and be hungry for the belt again. Gene, you mentioned it already. Going into that, I had Kamaru up 3-1 on his way to 4-1, and a minute left, he got caught. So I don't want to say that changes my perspective on what he was before the fight. Obviously, I'm going to hold my horses. He hasn't passed Khabib yet, just because he lost the fight. But me and you have the same kind of adage. Whatever happens before your knockout, we're not going to take that for granted.
All right, so can I ask you a question? Since we're saying some fights don't count, some fights count, right? Because
I'm not.
John Jones,
some fights count. What are you talking about?
The John Jones DQ doesn't count. It's not real. But
did you see that fight?
What about? Yes, I did. I watched it. He easily should have won the fight. It was an illegal. Yeah, but it was illegal. But with that being said, what about Kamaru Usman's submission early in his career?
Did we before UFC?
That happened?
Are we talking about
forget that happened? UFC? Yeah, when he lost to a guy that's 14
before the UFC,
14 and 38. UFC is not the only place where people do MMA.
I understand that, but I don't care if you're fighting in, Cage Warriors Underground and they're technically a legal sanctioned, company. I don't care about that. I care about what you do when your career is relevant and against the best fighters in the world. Do you know the guy he lost to? Because how long ago was that? You don't. So
the point I'm trying to make is that if you're saying that UFC is the only career,
that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Kind of what you're saying.
It's not though.
Did
Bellator's
Strike Force matter?
Yeah, Strike Force mattered 100%.
Bellator,
absolutely.
One,
absolutely.
Invicta,
and absolutely.
So like when Kamaru Usman lost, he lost.
That's okay. I mean, he
could
have
won any Kamaru Usman's losses. This one he just got caught.
It's not about
the one before was not real.
It's not about that. Here you go trying to paint narratives.
Yes, painting narratives.
It's 100% about what happened in what if Kamaru lost in Bellator or he lost in one completely
I love that photo.
different
Keep that
scenario.
Up, please. Keep that photo up.
Completely different scenario, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about some league that you've never heard of. Tell me what league you lost in, and I'll give you credit.
I don't know. It was a second fight, but like we don't count Khabib's fights before he got to the UFC. He's 29-0. Kamaru's won 22. We don't count them, right? Like they don't count.
I mean, if you go to a playground and you beat 8-9-year-olds in 1-on-1, I'm not going to say,
bro,
you're 9-0.
Sanctioned fights, bro. Sanctioned fights
in leagues you've never heard of.
I've heard of a million leagues, bro. So let me just be clear. Let me see.
Okay, so what leagues were Khabib in?
I'm gonna look it up right now.
All right, yeah, go look it up.
Exact league.
You're gonna give me the names and you're gonna act like you know about the leagues and
no, I won't.
These guys who have never been relevant ever.
All right, Kamaru Usman lost in CFA. I don't know what that is.
See,
I don't. I'm gonna lie to you, Bill. Can you help Cottrell along his path? Like right, Cottrell just doesn't want to apologize. It's okay.
I mean, he's a grown man. I can't make him apologize. This is what I could tell you.
See, Dante knows the CFA, Cage Fighting Association, bro.
I was going to say it's probably cage fighting. So here's I mean, for the Usman narrative, it wasn't a good night. I mean, it was a good night for for the first 14 minutes, but sorry, like 24 minutes. But here's you guys are never going to agree on it because this is why Gene is valuing the 0 and his dominance over a 4-fight spread versus
4. It's a little bit more than 4.
Relax, because I'm gonna get to both of you here. So while I do agree that every fight matters, they both probably have let's just agree here. They both have 10 to 15 people on the records that aren't fighting anymore. They were in crazy ass, like small sanctions coming up. And you're talking about fights that were 10 years ago. I'm not saying they don't matter. Every fight on your record matters, but it's not important to this conversation. I'm not saying UFC is the only game in town, but we're pretty much arguing over what they've done in the UFC. It's the biggest organization in the world. It's the best talent in the world. So here we are. Khabib has what? 4 title defenses, I believe.
3 title defenses.
I think it's 4.
No, he won.
He won, and he has 3 defenses.
All right, so he has 3, and then Usman is what? 5 fights and 4 defenses.
5 defenses and 1 championship.
I think one of those
5 defenses. 5 defenses.
5 defenses, and then
don't add the 1 championship because
I said 1 title, 1. I know I said that when he mentioned Khabib.
That's what he said. So this is my take on it as of right now. As we sit here right now, I'd have to give the slight edge to Khabib. What's going to happen next is going to be the start of how this is going to all end up playing out. Usman's obviously going to fight Leon Edwards again. They're going to run it back for the 3rd time. So if he gets it, he becomes a 2-time champion. Loss still matters. Not saying it doesn't at all, because it does. But if he goes and has 3 or 4 more title defenses again after that and doesn't lose again, you're talking about a guy that's going to be up there with GSP and far title defenses in that division. It's going to be really hard to say. And this is assuming Khabib does not come back. So I will preface that. If he comes back, then it's a whole different ballgame. He gets to 8 or 9 title defenses. You're up there in, GSP, almost getting to Anderson Silva. I think John Jones has the most at like 14 or 15. I think the long game here is in Usman's favor. That being said, he's got to go out and do it. He could lose to Leon Edwards again, and if he does, then I don't know if this is even a discussion anymore, because then I think it's probably
shouldn't be now. I think it should be no, it isn't. I think it could be a discussion if he wins the title back and wins 2 to 3 more fights.
That's literally what I just said. That's literally what I just said.
But it's not a discussion now.
It is, bro.
It's not.
So why does Kamaru have to help me out, Gene? Why does Kamaru have to defend his belt 8 times? Khabib defends his 3, and that makes them equal.
Khabib is in a different playground as Kamaru Usman because Khabib dominates every one of his fights. He won them all unanimously dominant by stoppage. It was absolute brutal. Like you watch the Gaethje fight, the Conor fight, the Poirier fight, all those fights when you watched him. Bro, Rafael dos Anjos was in the middle of his prime. He won the title after he fought Khabib. They wouldn't give Khabib title shot. They wouldn't give it to him. They kept trying to schedule a fight with Tony Ferguson. He beat Dos Anjos before Dos Anjos won the title, and Dos Anjos was the champion. And then they gave him Eddie Alvarez, and Eddie Alvarez won the bout from him. And then Conor got a shot. Khabib didn't lose.
You know what's funny about that? Kamaru also beat that same RDA.
Okay.
Around that same period. So
what was the same period?
It was like 2 years apart from each other.
2 years apart is like I'm not going to get into this with you, but I got you. It's not the same period, but I got you.
It was the same period of time.
Okay. So Khabib dominated everyone. There's no close fights. There's no arguments. There's no debates on if he won. Like dude, it's like I have nothing left to prove. I destroyed everyone. I'm done.
I'm hearing you on that. My counterpoint against that would be I never saw him fight Tony in his prime, and I still want to see him fight Oliveira now. Those are my two counterpoints.
I want to see Anderson Silva fight Izzy now. That will make him solidify me. So that's the same thing, bro.
Really? You want to see him fight Anderson Silva now? He's 43. How old is Khabib?
31.
Okay, so most fighters you'd say 31 is still somewhat prime of career.
I just said a number. Give me a second. He might be older than that.
I'd say that's close to the prime of your career. Like, let's not act like
Khabib older than that.
Just
make sure I'm not making stuff up.
You talking about Khabib or Usman?
33.
Khabib's 33. Oliveira has the belt now, and he's older than that. So let's not act like 33 is just this old age and retired. He retired because he had the miles on him. Like, let's not do that.
Yo, big play Slate bringing facts to the table. Kamaru has holes in his defensive game. Gilbert Burns found those holes, just couldn't get the job done. Colby Covington found those holes in the first fight. He just couldn't win. And Leon Stone Cold KO'd him. Big play Slate bringing the facts.
Gilbert Burns found the holes, couldn't beat him because Kamaru was just better. Colby found the holes in the first fight, got finished in the first fight. Leon was getting his ass beat for 24 minutes. Listen, dude. I'm not taking anything away from Leon Edwards. Like I said, I've actually been talking about him for a year now about him not screwing up his title shot, and this was why. But you guys are never going to agree on it. We can sit here and argue about it all night. At some point, if he, like I said, if he wins the belt back and then has 4 or 5 more title defenses, it's just really tough to be like, this guy went 4-0 in a stretch and he's one of the best 4 ever. Like that's just
what. So Gene, let me ask you, if
that's not title fights aren't the only fights that matter.
Bro, this is the playground argument. When he was beating people in Kazakhstan, I don't give a shit, dude. They don't matter. Because that is the 14-year-old dunking on a 2-year-old on a play school hoop. That doesn't matter. The same thing goes for Usman. Like all his fights after he lost that first one, when he's beating up on people in Cage Warriors that are guys that train 2 days a week, they don't matter. They don't matter.
Hang on. I'm counting
does it matter what you do in the NBA or does it matter what you do in the G League? Matters what you do in the NBA. Does it matter what you do in the NFL or does it matter what you do in the XFL?
So
matters what you do in the NFL.
He has 13 UFC wins. 13.
Okay. We've gone over this.
So we'll stop saying 4.
Before the matter.
Making up a bullshit number. 4. Who are
the other 9? It's the same thing as Usman. Usman's got shitty people.
Abel Troya, Pat Healy, Rafael dos Anjos, Michael Johnson.
Good. He's won.
Edson Barbosa, Ally
Way over his prime. Way
Bro,
over prime.
we love sprinkling in Iaquinta. Like we don't realize
all over this discussion all the time.
We don't realize what he is.
You just said Rafael dos Anjos, Pat Healy, and Abel Trillo were awful. Tell me you don't know UFC without telling me you don't know UFC.
Tell me you don't know UFC by saying two of those 3 fighters are elite on anybody's universe.
They're not awful.
So they're elite. Who cares?
Two different things, brother.
Who cares?
Well,
if they're not elite, who cares?
We're talking about Pat Healy. Really?
Pat Healy's not awful.
You're talking about Pat Healy. Pat Healy's your argument for Khabib to be able to fucking Mount Rushmore?
Pat Healy, Rafael dos Anjos,
Michael
Johnson,
Kamaru's beating
Barbosa,
Sean Strickland. He's beating RDA. He's beating Damian Maia. He's beating Tyron Woodley. He's beating Kobe Covington. Like
all better than Pat
if
Healy.
you go pound for pound,
if any of those guys been anywhere near as dominant as what Habib was,
anywhere near.
Have you seen anything
better than all of them?
Have you seen anything in Habib's repertoire that will tell you that he's beatable?
We don't know.
I saw it against Dustin. I saw there was an opportunity that Dustin had.
Saying he's not great, dude. Correct. It's a longevity thing, man. You're telling me to say he's one of the top 4 fighters ever. Is he probably on the fringe right now? Yeah. Like I said, if my answer is going to remain the same as it is right now, I give him the edge right now.
Yes.
Last Saturday was not good for Usman, Usman backers. But if he becomes a 2-time champion and he has 9 freaking title defenses, he's going to pass him. Again, assuming he doesn't come back.
So wins don't matter. It matters how you look, is what you're telling me.
Bro, wins and how you look matter. Both matter. The reason, so just to be clear, if we look at Anderson Silva's record, would you say that was an elite fighter? 33-14?
Come on.
No, it's how he looks, because that matters.
No. It's not about the 33-14. If you saw Anderson Silva in his prime, and it's not about how he looked, it was about he held his belt for ages.
It's not about how he looked.
He held his belt for ages. He won fights. That's my point. He won fights. I don't care about if he was flashy and knocking him out or not. If he held his belt look at Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse held his belt for forever, and no one gives him the respect that he deserves. And because he wasn't flashy and things like that, but he went out there and won.
I'm gonna read Big Slay's comment because it's spot on accurate. The difference between Usman and Habib is completely dominated in all his fights and wasn't close on any scorecard. Usman had fights where people have shown holes in his armor, and that is fact.
Okay, so he's number one. He's number one for you then.
He could be.
No. If we're going off that, then because even GSP
had holes in his game.
Whole thing he lost. He got so Khabib is the best MMA fighter ever in your opinion.
I have him third.
Behind who? If you're going off this,
and Anderson.
That then you're contradicting yourself.
No, I'm not.
GSP laid and preyed on people for 3 straight years, dude. He wasn't dominant. He was dominant
every one of those fights.
No,
he got caught one time.
You're dominant.
He got caught one time.
That's false. Matt Hughes tapped him. He got beat by Matt Serra.
No, when he won the title, he got caught one time by Matt Serra.
And he lost earlier in his career to Matt Hughes.
He was 14-2 in title fights.
My point is, your statement last week was he never lost a round. It was never close. Blah blah blah. GSP lost rounds in those fights. GSP didn't finish people like Khabib did. He wasn't dominant. He was nowhere near dominant as Khabib. So how do you have him over Khabib then?
I have him over Khabib because he's 14-2 in title fights.
Okay, so
16 title fights.
So the number of title fights matters is what you're saying.
Did I not tell you last week that if Kamaru Usman won 3 more fights, then I would be
I said that 8 minutes ago.
But I said that last week too. You want to check tape?
So Gene, if
but he didn't. He got knocked out.
Hypothetically, if Khabib comes out of retirement, let's say Oliveira beats Islam and Khabib's like, all right, I'll come back and fight you, Charles, and then he loses to Charles. Does that put a hole in your argument, or do we still recognize Khabib's greatness before that?
Yes, it puts a ding in Khabib's greatness. 100%.
Why?
Because he lost.
We saw what he did beforehand.
Do you know why I think Khabib is so dominant and so great? It's because not one person has ever showed you that he's beatable. Ever. In Kamaru's wins, he's been shown that he's been beatable. And Kevin Mooney said GSP wasn't dominate. Tell me how, Bill. Because you can look at his scorecards and see the 4 1s.
And you'll see 3 2s too and a knockout. I'm going based upon what you said last week. I think GSP is one of the greatest champions ever in the history of this planet. I'm not saying what you're saying. You based it upon he never lost a round, he didn't do this, he's never got punched, blah, blah, blah. All I'm saying is if you're comparing apples to apples, then Khabib is a way more dominant champion than GSP.
You know,
one of Cottrell's main points
is the
longevity.
If you don't say champion, then I might agree with your statement. He's a way more dominant fighter than GSP was. He's not a way more dominant champion because he only had four title defenses. But if you listen, 4 title fights. Okay.
You said defenses.
Okay. But the point that you're going to run into that you can choose to ignore all you want is that for 3 years, the entire UFC 155 division ran from him. And I admitted that when Eddie Alvarez was like, I ain't fighting him. I'm going to fight Conor. He wants this big payday. I fully understand and admit that. But that for 3 years, that 155 division ran from him. Why he was dominating people. He was beating Michael Johnson on the cage, yelling at Dana White, this is who you think could be me? Smacking him around. Michael Johnson was a stud.
That's just not all the way true, and you know that.
It's not?
About the whole division running from him. I mean, Tony Ferguson was chomping at the bits for a fight against Khabib, and it just never came to fruition.
Tony Ferguson wasn't the champion.
Tony Ferguson was the interim champion, and they could never unify the belt because either Khabib would drop out or Tony would drop out. They had to try to happen, 3 or 4 times, and it didn't happen. Tony wasn't afraid of Khabib.
Listen, they tried pressing the fight back to Ramadan, and Khabib never fights during Ramadan. That's his religious holiday. It's like, I'm sorry, bro. That's just not fair. And Slay said it perfectly. Tony Ferguson would have got destroyed by Khabib.
I mean, it's a nice theory to have, but we never saw it come to fruition.
But you've seen it in at least 13 UFC fights.
All right, so
we're gonna pretend the other 16 don't matter because it's not in the UFC. That's fine.
It's not about not being in the UFC. It's about it not being a top 5 or top 10 organization for mixed martial arts.
Michael Johnson was a top 5 fighter. Rafael dos Anjos was a top 5 fighter. Abel Trujillo was 7, 8, 9.
But Gilbert Burns is a top 5 fighter. Jorge Masvidal, top 5 fighter.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Did Kamaru look more dominant versus Gilbert Burns, or did Khabib look more dominant versus Justin Gaethje? And I think you would. I don't think you'd argue that Justin Gaethje is a better overall fighter than Gilbert Burns is.
That's not what I would compare. And the other thing here, I'm not even going to get into the whole Justin Gaethje thing because I think if you look at Justin Gaethje's record, I get it. He had the interim belt. He won it from Tony. Outside of that, Justin Gaethje has never won any fight any of the big fights he loses. So let's talk about Gaethje for what he really is. I understand he's good, can't win the big ones. And I'm not saying
Gilbert Burns to me.
That's fine, but
sounds like Jorge Masvidal to me.
You saw what Gilbert Burns did to the guy who you think's the second coming, and
he won a round,
and it was a war.
He won a round,
correct?
Okay, he won a round. So you saw what Gilbert Burns did. He won a round. That's your argument, bro.
And he won one round. He won 1 round against Kamaru. So what's your point?
That Khabib didn't lose rounds.
That's fine.
When you fight his whole career.
When you fight 5, good fighters for your career, and you're dominant in all 5, I get it.
All right. Well, I last thing I want to bring up, I don't think they should immediately give a rematch to Kamaru Usman. I don't. I think what's better for the 170 division is that Khamzat fights Leon Edwards and Kamaru fights the winner. That's just my opinion. After Khamzat destroys Nate Diaz this month.
Why would he not be entitled to his rematch?
I don't think he should give an immediate rematch. I don't think he should fight. I think that Kamaru Usman should take, because the fight is next month. I think he should wait to see the winner of Leon versus Khamzat. Dana had already said before this fight, assuming Kamaru would win, that Khamzat would be next in line for a title fight. So
that's if Kamaru won, yeah. I don't think he was planning to have a trilogy fight. I don't think beating Nate Diaz automatically jumps you to the top of the list in front of the champion that just ruled the division for 3.5 years. That's
No,
a
it's
tough
not the
sell
top
for
of the
me.
list. I think it's better for the UFC to have Hamzat fight Leon and then Kamaru get the winner of that. So it's almost like
I actually somewhat agree with what Gene said. I think Kamaru 1000% deserves his rematch. You hold the belt for that long, and you have 5 title defenses. You deserve to have your rematch right away. But I do think it would be better for the UFC if you don't give Kamaru the shot right away, and you give it to Hamzat, just because it's a fight that we haven't seen yet. If you, I was talking to Gene. Me and Gene have actually been talking about a little bit UFC before. Earlier this week, and my thinking is if you give Hamzat Leon, and let's say Leon loses, you could have Hamzat versus Usman for the belt, and then you could have Leon fight Kobe. So I think it would open up a lot more fights for this division. And although Kamaru deserves it, I think if you open it up and give him Hamzat, then it makes sense. I think the Jorge talks are insane, though. No way Jorge should get another title.
Jorge doesn't belong in a big fight for a really long time at this point.
Agreed. Jorge's going to fight Gilbert Burns, though. That's all but signed.
That's fine. I have no problem with that. Because it's an irrelevant fight for both of them. They both have nowhere to go right now. So I don't know. I'll respectfully disagree. I think if anything, after he beats Nate Diaz, if you want to do it that way, I would say give Hamzat Colby, and if he beats Colby, then he gets his title shot. The Nate Diaz thing, I think, is just a filler. Everybody knows what it's going to be. I don't think that moves the needle for me for him one way or the other. I think if it was a normal situation or somebody that had the belt for 3 months and they lose, I'm fine with not running it back right that. I think Kamaru's earned the chance not to wait. So I think he should fight Leon again, and then I would give Khamzat to Colby. That's a better fight. And see what happens there. If Khamzat gets through Colby, then he can get the winner of the trilogy.
All right. Well, we got to move on. We've really kind of addressed our fill in UFC. Let's move on to our running back list.
I actually did a poll for you guys. Khabib versus Kamaru, who's better? 100% of the votes went to Khabib.
How many votes is there?
3.
That's funny. It was only 3.
Overwhelming.
It's overwhelming. I'm 100% correct. Let's move on to the running backs list. I just don't know how you could actually vote for Kamaru. Like Cottrell even says he has him at the same, so he couldn't vote for Kamaru.
After Saturday, I wouldn't vote for him either. I just think when it's all said and done, I think it's again under the assumption that Khabib doesn't come back and fight. That I just think it's just going to be hard to deny Usman's body of work. That's all.
Okay.
I mean, you said it perfectly with GSP. He was 14-2 in title fights. So if Usman gets to 10-1 in title fights, I just don't know how you rank 3-0 over that when you're just constantly fighting elite competition.
4-0, but we keep forgetting that there's 4 fights. It might be 3 title defenses, but it's 4 title fights. But let's move on to running backs.
Title defenses. That's literally what I said.
Yeah, and I listen. If Kamaru Usman returns from this and wins 3 or 4 or 5 more fights, I can look at this like a Matt Serra fight. Like he got caught, he was dominating, got caught. I could see that, but you have to return from it. It doesn't change the fact that you have to win 3 to 4 more fights for that to happen. NFL running backs. Cottrell, you get to start this week. I will let you guys know this year, and I'm going to remind you from last year. I had Austin Eckler 2. He finished number 2 as far as overall fantasy points. I know it's not fantasy, but he's also a hell of a blocker at the running back position. So if it's not just fantasy points and it's blocking, it's fine. My rankings are a little nuts, and I'm good with that, and I'm okay with that. And I'm well to explain that. So bear with me. Cottrell, number 10.
My number 10 is a guy who I don't think that either one of you guys will have on your list. I think he's in a situation that's perfect right now. He just got a new quarterback at the helm, and his team has committed to him at the RB1 position. That guy, number 10 for me, is Javonte Williams. he's in a situation where the Broncos basically told Melvin Gordon that this is Javante's backfield and he's going to be our bell cow. So last year they did split a lot of reps. I think this year he's going to come in, he's going to get all those reps. Russell Wilson is going to, have people, not as many people in the box because you have to truly respect Russell Wilson's arm. And they got Cortland and Judy on the outsides there. So I think Javonte is going to be poised for a big year.
I think Javonte has a great year. He's just off my list. I can't put him on this list now, but I'll figure out who you have off your list before I decide whether I can look at that as relevant. My number 10, which I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, and I'm okay with it, is CMC, Christian McCaffrey. I have Christian McCaffrey number 10, and I'm going to explain to you why. If you told me you're 100% sure Christian McCaffrey will play 17 games this year, Christian McCaffrey be top 3 back. That's not what his career has shown me. I think Christian McCaffrey will get banged up. I also think Christian McCaffrey, and this is going to come off as very controversial, but I'm okay with that. I think that when the Panthers season starts on a decline, Christian McCaffrey makes business decisions. Yeah, maybe I'm not going to come back from that ankle sprain. Let's take some more time. Let's shut CMC down. Let's keep those legs fresh. Panthers stink. They do. Just call it like it is. They're going to be 7-10, 6-11. That's what their record's going to be this year. At best, 8-9. I think Christian McCaffrey plays 11 to 12 games, and I think in 11 to 12 games, he's the 10th most productive running back in football.
My number 10 is going to be Aaron Jones from Green Bay. Bottom of the list, I had Javonte Williams as well. It was a couple guys that I went with what I think is going to be the more consistent producer. Williams hasn't done it yet, so I went with Aaron Jones of Green Bay. He's been their bell cow back for the last 2 years now. I know Gene is not the biggest fan in the world of him based off his performance in the playoffs 2 years ago. But I think he's going to have another 1,000-yard season. I think he's probably going to get more touches this year than he has in the past, especially in the passing game with them losing Devontae Adams. So I think he's another big year. I have him number 10. Number 9, I have one of my favorite draft picks from last year because I think it was the perfect team, perfect situation for this kid to go. I think there's a definite possibility that ends up higher on this list by the end of the year, but I have him at number 9 this year. I have Najee Harris from Pittsburgh. Kid's a stud. Loved him coming out of Alabama. He is the undoubted, not even close, anybody close to taking touches away from him in that backfield. They're going to play this year with either Mitch Trubisky or, by the way it looks, they're starting to sound Kenny Pickett. He's going to get 25 touches every game. He's going to be up there in Derrick Henry territory in terms of rushing attempts this year. I think he has another monster year. Again, number 9 for me.
Slay, I'm going to read your entire list out to the entire audience as soon as we're done ours. So keep that. But I promise you, man, I like your list, and I'll talk about it a little bit more. But you're missing a big name, in my opinion. I'm going to take a small jab at what Shally just said with Aaron Jones at 10. He wasn't their bell cow last year, not even close to it. A.J. Dillon is taking a ton of carries away from him, and Matt LaFleur just said recently that it's a 1A situation. So Aaron Jones is in a true backfield split situation. Now, where he can crack your top 10, and I wouldn't be opposed to this, is he's starting to see like running routes in the slot. They're starting to line up both of them on the field at the same time with the loss of Devontae Adams. So that could possibly be, he could make up for it with receptions. But as far as usage goes, I mean, I don't even know if he had the most carries on his team last year in games in which they both played. So my number 9 is Alvin Kamara. He's a bell cow for where he's at. There's no backup. I think that Alvin Kamara had a rough season last year, injury plague season. I think with Jameis Winston being back, I think you can have a little bit more of a vertical offense. You had Chris Olave, you had Michael Thomas. All the entire defense won't be focused on just Alvin Kamara. So I think Alvin Kamara can finish 9th on this list. I think he could be higher. I might be a little low on him, but that's just because of a subpar last year.
So my number 9 is a guy that Bill was just talking about, and that's Aaron Jones. And Aaron Jones is in the situation where I understand that he has to split reps with a AJ Dillon, but in a situation where Devontae Adams is no longer in town, I think both of those guys are going to get a ton more love in the red zone specifically, but just in general. We know Aaron Rodgers can throw the ball, and he's shown that it truly doesn't matter fully what receivers are around him. He'll be somewhat successful, but I think that Packers team is going to lead more on those running backs this year. I think that's a situation. They're in a situation where both those guys could potentially go over 1,000 yards. I know that I don't think that's ever happened in the history of the league, but I truly think they're in a situation where that would be possible to me. My number 8 is another guy that Shally was just talked about, and that's Najee Harris. Najee Harris is the bell cow of that Pittsburgh Steelers team. While I do think it is going to be a little bit different for him not having Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback, and teams won't respect whoever is under center for the Steelers, I still think Najee Harris is too special to not get his and be a special player for that team, and he's going to shine on a team that I don't think is going to be too good this year. They're always solid under Mike Tomlin. I don't think that they're going to be contending for the playoffs this year. But Najee Harris is going to be a bright spot. And if they do contend for the playoffs, it'll 100% be because Najee Harris is having a, Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber year.
I don't hate it. I have Najee Harris. You'll hear Najee Harris on my list. My number 8, once again, might be a little low, but it's due to usage. It's not due to his overall product, like how good of a running back he is. My number 8 is Nick Chubb. I have Nick Chubb 8, and I'll tell you why I have Chubb 8. Chubb has never, I don't think in his career has had 250 carries. The guy is not equipped to run the football like 300, 400 touches like a Derrick Henry. And it's smart. Yes, Chubb 8. I have Chubb low because it's not a production. It's not a production per snap or a production per carry. It's a production per year. And Nick Chubb just doesn't touch the ball enough for me. And to add to that, if I'm playing Cleveland this year, the first 11 games of the season, you tell me why I wouldn't have an 8-man box. Tell me why I shouldn't have 8 people in the box. And listen, I'll respond to Slay. My heart's been broken. Chubb's my favorite back in the league. Chubb is the second best running back in football. But this is a production list, and this is what I think they'll do this year. I had Chubb low last year, proven me to be right. I have Chubb low this year, number 8.
Out of curiosity, how did Chubb prove you to be right last year and he was second in the league in rushing?
Because rushing yards aren't the only thing a running back does. Overall production.
I understand that.
It was 7th out of running backs. I had him 6th. Is that nuts?
It's not nuts, but second in rushing and you're a running back, I think that does matter for me. But I get it.
In 1998, I agree with you.
I mean, if you're a running back, your rushing yards are still, it's literally your number one job priority. And
he was 17th in receiving.
Okay. He's a running back, not a wide receiver.
Out of running backs.
He's a running back, not a wide receiver. He's not
just about running yards.
But it's his number one job, and he's very good at it. His number one job is not to catch 100 balls. Okay. That's why I'm just saying.
In today's NFL, it is.
With certain teams, not all teams. Cleveland doesn't run that type of offense.
And if they do,
Kareem Hunt just catches them.
Correct. Different packages, different players. Number 8, I have Alvin Kamara. I do agree with Gene. The reason I have him low is not because I don't think he's going to bounce back a year. I have him down here simply because I think he's going to miss time. I think he's going to get suspended. He's definitely going to miss time at some point during the season. He's an all-world talent, man. When he's right, he's very good. He was going to be a huge safety valve, like Gene mentioned, for Jameis Winston this year out of the backfield. I just don't think he's going to play 17 games. I don't think there's any shot he plays 17 games. There's new accusations that came out against him today, I heard, from the same lawyer that was representing all the people that were accusing Deshaun Watson. So now that's looming as well. So could be a long year for him. He's a great player. Everybody saw what he was capable last year, the six touchdown game. Just don't think he's going to be on the field long enough to be higher up on this list where he rightfully probably should be. Number 7 is the opposite of him. This is the guy that I said was going to have a big year last year because I thought he was finally going to stay healthy, and he did. And that is Joe Mixon from Cincinnati. He was a key part, along with Joe Burrow and those wide receivers, of having taking that team to the Super Bowl. He's another one. He's the unquestioned number one RB1 on that team. He's getting better and better. They're using him more out of the backfield, catching the ball as well. He's going to have just as many touches this year, if not more than last year, as long as he can stay healthy. Health is always the issue with him. But he did it. Like I said, I predicted that he would last year, and he did. I think he has another good year this year, and I have him number 7.
My number 7 is Najee Harris. You guys both have him a little bit lower than me. I think that Najee Harris continues his ascend. Last year, my biggest question with Najee Harris would be, could he do it behind a terrible offensive line? And he did. The offensive line was awful last year, and he still caught the ball. Even Najee Harris, this is a weird statistic, but Najee Harris had contact on him behind the line of scrimmage more than any running back in the NFL last year. That's absurd. So think about, he had to break tackles. First contact was before the line of scrimmage more than any running back in the NFL, and he did it as a rookie. So I'm going to get better. Najee Harris, my number 7.
My number 7 is a guy that you guys have both mentioned already, and that's Alvin Kamara. Obviously, we talked about, Jameis being back this year. We talked about their receiving core. Bill, you did mention a good point. There's a possibility that he gets suspended. I honestly, everything that I've been seeing, it says that they're going to take it out to court and that he probably won't get suspended until 2023. So I think there's a good chance that he does play this full season. And then next year we're back in this dilemma of, how many games he missed and all that. But I think this year he plays the full season, and we know what he's going to be. I think that with at least running backs for me in my rankings, the ones who, rush solid and they're pass catching backs, they're a little bit lower in my overall view, but Alvin Kamara is special. And so he 100% had to be on this list. The other guy that falls in that category is the guy who was the RB2 in fantasy football last year, and that's Austin Eckler. You might think that that's a little bit low for him. I think in an offense like the Chargers, where they throw the ball a ton and they have all these weapons, Austin Eckler is going to be phenomenal in the passing game. But I do think it did mean a little something to me that they went out and got Isaiah Spiller earlier in the draft. I'm not saying that he's going to be a guy to, fully take reps away from Austin Eckler, but I do think that that's an important thing to note. And so I think his production drops just a little bit, but Austin Eckler is special, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was still production-wise top 3 back in the league, but my projections say he's a little bit lower this year.
My number 6, I think I should have him higher, honestly. The more and more I think about it, my number 6 is Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon might even crack the top 5 for me, maybe top 4. What did Cincinnati do this offseason? They got a better line. They literally spent all their money this offseason on fixing the line. And most people think it's because of Joe Burrow, and I agree with that. But what else does a line do? They block. And Joe Mixon ran behind a terrible line last year and did well. Imagine him behind a better line. And I don't see how, when you play Cincinnati, you can't put 8 in the box. You got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on the outside. You got Shiesty Joe throwing the ball down the field. I don't know how Joe Mixon has a bad year this year. I think Joe Mixon could easily crack the top 5, and I think 6 might be slighting him.
Number 6 for me, I have a guy that Gene already talked about, Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers. I do think he has a bounce back year. I do agree with Gene. I don't think he plays all 17. I think he probably plays 14 or 15 though. I'll double down on my bold health predictions like I did with Joe Mixon last year. I think C-Mac kind of has that type of year this year. And when he's on the field, there's no doubt, how productive he can be, and he touches the ball between 25 or 30 times a game. I think Baker being there, it could help him, it could hurt him. I know. I mean, we'll see. Baker's been named the starting quarterback. The line should be a little bit better than it was last year. Again, we'll wait and see. They're in a tough division with good defenses. That's going to be, well, not Atlanta, but I think, like I said, I just think he has a bounce back year. I think it would be good. I think it's good for the NFL if he has a good year. He's kind of one of those superstar guys everybody likes to watch. If he's not playing, then it's kind of a detriment to the league overall. But I think they probably try to limit his touches a little bit. I do agree with Gene on that as well. Maybe try to preserve his legs for later in the year if they're hanging around like a wild card spot, which I don't think they will be. But I think he's a bounce back year. So I have number 6. Number 5, I have the guy that Cottrell just talked about. I have Austin Eckler, number 5. Breakout. Hello, I'm here. Welcome to the party year last year. And I will give Gene his roses. Gene called that last year. When I think running backs, I actually like a lot of things he does. He's great out of the backfield catching passes. He's not necessarily, I don't want to say he's not a bell cow, but he's very versatile, which is a huge advantage for him. He's not a traditional, I'll say this, he's not a traditional between the tackles, run the ball, downs 1 through 3 all the time. Cottrell had a great point, has a ton of value with that team. Justin Herbert throws the ball 40 times a game, if not more. Fantasy points wise, again, he could probably be the number 1 back in the NFL this year, maybe, depending on what some of these other guys do. But for me, I have him number 5 this year. Next year, he probably jumps another couple spots for me as well. So this year, I have him number 5.
I actually have Austin Eckler taking a step back. I have number 5 also. Austin Eckler is a great running back, the new modern age running back. I just want to be clear when I say that. Maybe we all value running backs differently, but in today's NFL, receiving, pass blocking, because he's one of the most tremendous pass blockers for his size. He's unbelievable. He's strong. He benches 500 pounds. You've seen that last year with the videos. He's very interactive with the fans, but that's not what we're talking about. Austin Eckler is a Swiss Army knife. He had 20 touchdowns last year. The guy does it all. Catches the ball, can get those hard-nosed goal line carries. He's definitely not a bell cow running back, though, in the traditional sense. So that's why he's at number 5. I think he takes a little bit of a step back. And I think Justin Herbert airs the ball out a little bit more than he did last year, which is incredible.
This is the one that I've been dreading. This is about to get. I'm about to get a lot of flack for this one.
Sounds controversial.
I got the best running back in the NFL at number 5 right now, and that's Derrick Henry.
Oh my!
Derrick Henry is in a situation where they took away AJ Brown from him. They truly, the Titans clearly don't fully believe in Ryan Tannehill, and I really feel like this is a situation where Derrick Henry came back from injury last year, and in that playoff game, he wasn't the same. And I don't want to judge my projections solely off of that, but I think he's got a lot of tread on his tires already. And I saw a stat about running backs after they get, it was a certain amount of touches. I can't remember what the exact number was. I believe it was like 1,500 touches or something like that, that they tremendously go downhill. And I think in a situation where teams are going to go up against the Titans, and they're going to load the box up, and it's going to be really tough. So I got Derrick Henry at 5.
I got a couple questions for you. I don't want to go too far into it until I get to them, but I'm going to ask you just a small portion of questions. I almost feel like you took what I said last year when I had Henry lower than everyone expected him to be. I didn't have him 1. I had him like 4, and repeated it. And I remember we were talking about his touches last year, the magical 400. He had 398 the year prior, and then Bill said 400 stuff. It's not 400. And I said, tread on the tire. You said 1,500 career turn, but it's tread on the tire for a running back of that size. I think that injury for him last year, albeit sucks that he got injured, might have been good for him to rest those legs, have him sit out 6, 7, 8 weeks. But I'll get into it a little bit more when I get into it, because I'm going to ask you a couple questions when it comes in, when I get to my running back, when I get to Derrick Henry. By the way, I think that neither one of you guys have my, one of the running backs I have in my top 4, which is great.
Oh yeah, I know I don't. My number 4 is a guy who I think really might be the number 1 back when it is all said and done this upcoming season. I didn't have the gall to put him at 1. And that's Dalvin Cook. we talk about guys who can't stay healthy. Dalvin Cook is one of those guys. He misses 3 or 4 games every year, but he's still so productive. I really think him being in that new Minnesota Vikings offense, they're going to get him more involved in the passing game, and we know how special he is at the true running back position. So numbers wise, I truly think Dalvin Cook can be number 1, but with his injury history, I just can't. I can't give the confidence to him to be number 1. How deep down, that's how I truly feel, but my mind just wouldn't let me do it.
It's a projections list, man. Be ready to be bold. I'm gonna be bold right here. Number 4, probably not on either one of your guys' list. I got DeAndre Swift from the Detroit Lions. This is my breakout this year. This is my Austin Eckler. I am telling you, this man's gonna have 70 to 80 catches. He's gonna have 1,000 yards on the ground. He might be the more electric Austin Eckler. That's what he is. He catches the ball. The modern day NFL. This kid is special. Deuce Staley, if you were watching Hard Knocks, it's incredible. Deuce Staley said, you might be one of the best running backs I've ever had the privilege to be in a room with, and I played with Shady McCoy. I need to feel that. I've been watching DeAndre Swift. He looked great last year before he got hurt. DeAndre Swift is my number 4. And if you're in fantasy football, I promise you, draft this man and you'll be happy.
Number 4 for me. This is where it started to get a little tricky, but I think the top 3 were tough for me. This was a little bit easier just for certain things that Gene's already touched on. Number 4 for me, I have Cottrell's boy, Nick Chubb from Cleveland. I think he's a great running back. He's a little limited in the pass game, which isn't the end-all be-all for me. As a guy that I can turn around and hand the ball off to, 18 and 20 times a game, there's not really too many people better than him in the league. He's a tough runner. He can make you miss. He's got speed. His only downfall is that they have Kareem Hunt, and they are conscious of splitting carries and keeping them both fresh. In terms of running back, though, he's great. I love him. I just think there's 3 guys better than him. I really don't have anything bad to say about Nick Chubb whatsoever. It's on a contrary point to what we've talked about already, it is pretty amazing how productive he is with his limited touches. So that just goes to show how good he is at the running back position and running the football in the NFL. Number 3, to Cottrell's point, I've fallen in love with this guy because I've had him so many times in so many fantasy leagues the last couple of years. And I want to put him higher. I couldn't make myself do it as much as I like him, and it's a personal feeling type thing. Number 3 for me, I have Dalvin Cook from Minnesota. Cottrell touched on the biggest point, and I think this matters. There's always a portion of the year, every time I have him on my fantasy team, I know there's 2 or 3 weeks I'm not going to have him in the lineup, just the way it is. I loved him coming out of Florida State. I was high on him then. I think he's great. Cottrell brought up the other good point. They've been splitting him out a lot wide. They've been splitting him out in the slot out wide. They're trying to pass the ball more, get him even more involved in the passing game, on top of all the carries that he's going to have. I think he's going to have a better number year than he did last year. It's just, can he stay healthy? That's always the biggest thing with him. It's never a production issue whatsoever. He can do everything. So number 3 for me this year, I have Dalvin Cook.
All right, so I just have a crazy question for you. And this even goes to Dante, too, if you want to throw your mic on, because I've got your chat. So how much worse, weapons-wise, are the Titans this year with losing A.J. Brown, a hurt Julio Jones, and changing that to Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, and Austin Hooper? Because Ryan Tannehill has shown throughout his entire career that he loves throwing the ball to the tight end. So Austin Hooper will be an upgrade at that position. Treylon Burks is a rookie wide receiver taken in the first round. We all know how special that kid can be. He's obviously been buried on the 3rd team because he hasn't learned the playbook yet, but I understand that. But Robert Woods is no slouch in the park either. Now, you lost A.J. Brown, but you upgraded at the 2 and the tight end, in my opinion. So with that being said, I got King Henry. Number 3. And Derrick Henry is going to come back with a vengeance this year. I believe in Mike Rabel. I believe in what the Titans. They were the number 1 seed last year. Now, do I think that they'll do it in the playoffs? I think Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback that can lead them to the promised land. The answer is no. But with that being said, I still believe the fact that they're going to be a good regular season team. I think Derrick Henry is going to run the ball. I think you got 4 built-in wins with Jacksonville and Houston in that division. I just really believe that Derrick Henry will still have a very good season, 1,600 rushing yards. And this is one of the traditional backs in the NFL that I still have very highly rated.
Oh, you want me to go now? All right.
Yep. Yeah, you're more welcome.
No, I was saying, the reason why I personally, this is not any knock against Derek. Like, we've seen a guy that gets injured over and over and over. Robert Woods gets injured over and over and over. Tannehill's going to regress. That offensive line, Taylor Lewan, has been getting injured over and over and over. Austin Hooper's the same way. It's just a lot of, to me, it's just a regression period for them. It's not necessarily they don't have the talent, but injuries in a regression period is going to happen real heavy for them. And I think it's going to be like severe to the point where they could go best to worst, like in the same, in the same 2 years or in this 2-year time span. So that was the reason why I wouldn't even put Derek in my top 5. It's not because it's talent, kind of like what you were saying, Gene, for your other guys. It's just everything else around him. I think he's just in a kind of a crappy situation this year.
Makes sense. I follow you. I'm not against what you're saying. I just think the Titans will be a lot better than you're predicting they will be.
I do want to give some love to Joseph Jeffers for the Kyle Phillips, the receiver out of UCLA. He is going to be special. That was a sneaky good late round pick for them, and I do think he is going to be one of those quiet names that I'm taking him probably late in fantasy football, 14, 15, 16th round. But Titans having the number 1 defense, I got to take that credit right back away. There's no way they finished with the number 1 defense in the NFL. But getting back to the running backs list, number 3 for me might surprise you because you guys probably think I have him higher, but that's Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. I already mentioned last year he was second in the league in rushing, but the other thing too that I think is important is that there's a lot of stories going around about Kareem Hunt being unhappy with his contract, and to that point, I don't know if Kareem Hunt finishes this season as a Cleveland Brown. This is his last year on his deal. And I think that there's a big possibility that they try to shop him just to get something for him before they get nothing for him next year. And I think Nick Chubb, yes, you talk about Nick Chubb not having that the true bell cow look. But the other thing with that, though, I think is because he's had a compliment like Kareem Hunt. It's not. I don't think that he can't do it. I just think that the Browns have had the luxury to have a true number two back behind him.
I agree
with you too. I just don't think he'll be number 3. Last year, what is second in the league in rushing, he had 248 touches. I just don't think you can be top 5 in running back overall production with that little touches.
That's where we kind of agree to disagree. I do think numbers wise, I think it'll be a little bit better this year. But Nick Chubb falls at that 3 spot for me. My number 2, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid again. Christian McCaffrey, he's back. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to have that 100 receptions this year, close, if not more than 1,000 yards on the ground. I truly think that this is CMC's, make or break year. I think he's gonna stay healthy this year. He's missed 23 of his last 33 possible games, but I don't see that happening this year, man. I really think CMC, he stays healthy. He plays all 17 unless by game 17 the Panthers are completely out of it and they don't play anybody week 17. So I got CMC rebounding and being special back this year.
Well, my number 2, and I almost put him number 1, is Dalvin Cook. Kevin O'Connell is going to make a huge difference over there in Minnesota. It's just factual. You went from a defensive coach, Mike Zimmer, to an offensive guru. I think Dalvin Cook has a great year this year. I think he stays healthy, and I think that you'll see a guy that could potentially go over 2,000 total yards in Dalvin Cook between receiving and rushing the football. Dalvin is special. We all know that. The question is whether he can stay on the field for 17 games. I think that the way the offense will be designed will be very, very much the way the Rams offense is designed, with a way better running back. And I think Dalvin Cook is going to explode this year. I think between him and Justin Jefferson, that will be 70% of the Vikings offense.
All right, so my number 2 pretty much came down to the two big guys. Which one I was going to put where. Number 2 for me, after much deliberation and thought into all this, I'm going to go with Derrick Henry at number 2. I do think to Gene's point earlier, I don't think him missing 8-9 weeks last year was the worst thing in the world for him. I will say, with the size that he has, I don't know if the wear and tear, the magic numbers are necessarily going to apply to him in the same sharp decline that it has with other people, simply because when he does hit people, he doesn't take the worst of those collisions a lot like some other running backs do. I think he's going to have a good year. He's going to get the ball as much as they want to give it to him. I don't think that's going to change. To Gene's point as well with Tannehill, that is not a team that can win football games with Tannehill throwing the ball 35 times a game. It's just not going to happen. I think he rebounds. I think he's healthy. Somebody commented earlier, I don't know if it was possible, but it looks like he got bigger. It does look like he got bigger. I don't know if he put it on an extra pound, 5, 6, 7 pounds of muscle. He looks like he's in better shape than he was the last 2 years, and that's scary if you're a defense. Gene actually stole the number from me. 1,600, I think, is right around where he probably is again. I do agree as well. I hate agreeing with Gene this much, but I think Tennessee's going to be a little bit better than people think they're going to be. That defense is better. Is Robert Woods as sexy as A.J. Brown? Maybe? No. But if he could stay on the field, Austin Hooper is definitely an upgraded tight end. Gene already touched on this. Tannehill loves his tight ends. I think Tennessee's going to be a good football team. And of all the people that have come from, the Bill Belichick coaching tree, Mike Vrabel's the one I would put trust in and faith in. And that team plays hard for him. They love him. So I'm going to have Derrick Henry number 2, which makes the obvious pick. Number 1, Jonathan Taylor.
Looks like we all have him number 1.
Yeah, it does look like we all have number 1.
And, before you kind of give that answer, it looks like we all have Jonathan Taylor number 1. I want to ask you all the reason that you have him number 1, even though he had such an amazing year last year. I kind of want to get your opinions on that, but I have a very strong opinion on this. So I'll start with you, Bill. Go ahead.
So number 1, the biggest reason for me is, there's 1 and 1A for me. I think Matt Ryan being there helps. But the biggest reason for me is, in some aspects, they remind me of Cleveland. They are a run-first team. They know what they have there. They have a good offensive line. We've talked about that ad nauseum before with Quentin Nelson and all the guys they have on the line. He is very instinctive. He has great vision. He avoids big hits. He is about as a complete running back as we've seen in a long time. The offense is going to be run through him like it always is. They're going to be a run-first team. I don't think it's going to look much different than it did last year, to be completely honest with you. They might throw the ball a tad more. They still don't have a huge number 1 receiver there. You can give me Michael Pittman if you want, but he's a lower tier number 1. As much as I like him, we'll see if Matt Ryan makes him better. But my biggest thing for him is going to be his usage, and he's just a great running back. And like I said, it all starts and ends with him on that offense. So I don't see why he wouldn't. I'm not saying he's going to run for 2,200 yards, but I don't see why he would take a step back this year. I don't.
It's funny you say that. I want to read Dante's comment out. Dante messed a prediction that Jonathan Taylor breaks the all-time NFL rushing record this year. And I think with 17 games, I don't think that's a nuts statement. Let me just take it a little bit step further. Hey, everybody, I see a bunch of comments. Funny thing is, Taylor finishes 3. Quite honest with you, everyone got Taylor 1. Taylor's number 1 on everyone's list. I'm gonna tell you why Jonathan Taylor's number 1 on my list. Number 1, he still has young legs. Number 2, he has a number 3 offensive line in the NFL. That matters. You're putting Matt Ryan behind that offensive line too. You're talking about a guy that's going from the 23rd ranked offensive line last year to the number 3 ranked offensive line this year. So that's going to matter a ton. Matt Ryan, I don't think Matt Ryan's had a top 5 offensive line since the year he won MVP. So I truly believe Jonathan Taylor has all the tools to be an elite running back this year with a quarterback that's going to have a little bit better command. And I feel like that. And once again, Dante, that's spot on. Michael Pittman, you can add him as an offensive lineman because he's definitely a top 10 wide receiver run blocker. As a whole, that team is just headed in the right direction as far as their coaching staff, their offensive line, their skill position players. I think Jonathan Taylor absolutely dominates the league this year. And I think the Colts make the playoffs at 11-6.
So, I mean, I'll echo everything that you guys have already said. Another thing that I want to add on too is that the Colts defense is, I think, going to be one of the top 5 defenses in the league. They're a special bunch. You know, they got Shaquille Leonard in the middle there, and I think they're going to put Jonathan Taylor in a situation where he's going to be able to get short touchdowns. And like you said, Gene, he's got young legs. I think that is very key here. He's running a 24-year-old running back is running behind an offensive line that's special and one of the best in the league. And he's got a quarterback that can truly threaten, I mean, any route, you know. As old as Matt Ryan is still a good enough quarterback. I'd say he's top 16 quarterback still in the league right now. Granted, if I look at the numbers, he might not land right there, but he's a good enough quarterback where you 100% have to respect him. And Michael Pittman on the outside is enough of a weapon where you can't just load up the box with 8 or 9 guys to stop Jonathan Taylor. And Jonathan Taylor has, not only does he have the elusiveness, he also has the speed. So Jonathan Taylor is a special back, and right now I think he's definitely on pace to be the best running back in the league for, you know, the foreseeable future.
I'll tell you this: if anybody has anything to prove on that
before we move
team,
over to the Big Ten, I got to ask you guys this both question.
It's their defense.
Obviously, the one thing that's what'd you say?
No, nothing. I wasn't talking. It's fine.
Before we move over, I just got to ask just one question. I didn't hear what he said. The elephant in the room looking at these lists is I have DeAndre Swift 4, and neither one of you guys have him on your list. How far do you have him off your top 10? Like, what is the reasoning why he wouldn't crack your top 10?
I mean, you asked me last night about it. I told you I simply forgot to put him on there. I mean, so he's freaking. I mean, in reality, he's probably like 9 or 10 for me. I just wasn't going to tell Dante he had to change the graphic 4 minutes before the show. That's all. So I mean, here's the thing, and this is a real thing. The whole like boost from like Hard Knocks happens every year. Like every year we watch that show and somebody falls in love with somebody, and you know. But that being said, DeAndre Swift had a great first 6 or 7 games last year before he got banged up, and then he ultimately got seriously hurt and he missed even more time. I mean, that's the omission on my list for sure. I mean, I think he's a top 10 back. If I wasn't an idiot and forgot him, he'd be on my list. That's my honest answer.
Okay, understood. I mean, I get it. Control.
I mean, I think he's definitely right off that list for me. I definitely thought about him, but my thing is that, you know, he's going to be on a team. I do think the Lions are going to be better this year, and I actually think they're going to win. Whatever their over under is for wins this year, I probably will take their over.
I think it's 4.5. I think.
Yeah, I'm 100% lock me in on if it's that low.
They're gonna mess around, beat the Eagles week 1. Watch.
But I just think it's not a slight against DeAndre Swift. It's for me. It's just I think the 10 guys ahead of him, I think are going to have better years. It's simple as that. I wouldn't be surprised at all, though.
I've already said they might mess around and beat the Eagles week 1. I've already said that. I've been on record saying that. I'm gonna say it again. I think the Eagles.
I want to get it out of the way now before it hurts too much when it happens.
Okay. And then Keith Saringer brings up the best point. Cottrell doesn't have Joe Mixon on his list. That's wild.
It's tough.
It is. No, it is. It is 100% wild. I think Javonte Williams has a better year than what. I mean, that's really who I was fighting it with. Should I have had Joe Mixon over Aaron Jones? I think that very well could be the case. But like I said, I think in a situation where Joe Mixon's in a place that has 3 legit wide receiver ones, and Aaron Jones in a situation where him and AJ Dillon are their 2 best weapons on offense. So I think that we saw last year that Joe Mixon was very productive, but I just don't know when I think the Bengals have a situation where they got a trio of guys that can go over 1,000 yards each.
Okay. Let's move on to Big Ten football. I'm ready for it.
Penn State?
No, I mean Michigan.
Oh.
I'm sorry, man. We don't have the most money in the Big Ten, bro. We can't pay all our guys.
You also don't have a competent coach to win your games down the stretch.
I agree with that, actually.
That's your biggest issue.
Cool. Control, you can get us started with your East and West predictions.
Sheesh. All right. Well, I mean, let's be honest here. You know who's coming out the East. I don't even have to say too much about this.
That's what you said last year too.
Don't have too much to say about this. For my money, we got the best quarterback, running back, and receiver in the country. And CJ Stroud, Travion Henderson, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. A lot of people will say CJ Stroud's number 2 behind Bryce Young. I can respect that, but as an Ohio State fan, I'm gonna humbly disagree with you. For
There's
me,
nothing
Travion
humble
Henderson,
about you talking at Ohio State football.
But I'll humbly disagree, though. I may not talk about Ohio State humbly, but with your opinion, I'll humbly disagree with it. Travion Henderson special. And the good thing about Ohio State is that they return, I believe it's 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen. So the offense, I understand they lost Olave, they lost Wilson to the league last year, but Emeka Egbuka behind them and Marvin Harrison Jr. behind those guys, I think we saw what they could do in that game, the Rose Bowl against Utah. So I truly think that Ohio State team this upcoming year is going to be the most special team that we've seen in the BCS college football era. That's my bold prediction of the year.
Wait, time out. Wait. So you're saying
special?
Oh man! All right.
My man said my
Go
favorite
ahead,
team is going to be the greatest team in the BCS era. That's my bold prediction.
No. This is the best Ohio State team in the BCS college football era. Not the best team in the era.
Okay, that's fine. That's better.
This is the best Ohio State team in that whole era.
I don't think that's the way you said it the first time.
Correct.
So, all right, we're good. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing that I think is what's special about this team is that JT Tuamala was on the D line. He was a 5-star number 1 kid in his class, and they also have Jack Sawyer, who was a 5-star number 1 kid in the class. And with Jim Knowles coming in, I truly think this Ohio State team is going to be very good defensively, and I think they have the luxury of having all their tough games at home this upcoming season. They were definitely blessed by the schedule gods for sure. And so I think they're gonna roll through the Big Ten, and I don't know if there's a game on their schedule that's anything lower than a double-digit win until the first round of the college football playoff. And then on the west side, give me Wisconsin. I'm buying in on the Wisconsin stock.
I'm not.
I think the West it's open, but in a situation where, unfortunately the Big Ten doesn't do it, where the best 2 teams playing the title game, it's who wins on one side and who wins on the other. I got to go Wisconsin here because I think they're a smidge better than what Iowa is going to be. So I'm rolling with Wisconsin, and then of course I'm rolling with my Buckeyes to win the Big Ten championship, and I don't think that's close.
Okay. I got Ohio State. They're gonna win. I don't think that's even close. And I have Wisconsin coming out of the West. I just don't think that I'm not buying in on Wisconsin. I think that Ohio State will win the conference, and I think that's what's going to happen. But just because I have to pick someone in the West doesn't mean I have to buy in on a trash team. I just don't.
That's fair. That's very fair.
Think the reason that they win the West is because they have Minnesota at home. I think Minnesota finishes second in that on the West. And I will be rooting heavily for the Golden Gophers to beat to beat Wisconsin in Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin stinks. I just think that they're the fourth best team in the Big Ten. They just play on the wrong side. I mean, the right side for them. Ohio State.
All right, so everybody's going to expect me to do one thing here. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. I will say this.
You could be a homer like Cottrell and just pick your team for everything.
Cottrell just kind of, and Gene just kind of hit the nail on the head here. The two best teams in this conference this year by far reside in the Big Ten East, and they are Ohio State and they are Michigan, and it's a drop to everybody else. The only thing I will disagree slightly with Cottrell is Ghost of Christmas Past. I don't think it'll happen. You guys do go to Happy Valley, do you not?
They do, but Penn State doesn't have a snowball's chance of hell of beating.
I know. It's a house of horror. I mean, the game they won with the block punt, I believe Ohio State was like 13-point favorites in that game.
Yeah.
But I digress. So the big question is, do the Buckeyes get back on top this year? That's what everybody wants to know. That's what everybody's discussing. I'll say this. People have short memories. Everything we said tonight and everything I'm about to say as well is everything that everybody said about them last year. They had C.J. Stroud. They had Travion Henderson, who I'm a big fan of. Me and Cottrell have already had numerous talks about him and Donovan Edwards. They were two of the top backs in last year's recruiting class. They're both playing on arch nemesis teams now. It's great. It's going to be fun to watch for the next 2 years still. I'll get to Donovan Edwards in a minute. C.J. Stroud was there last year. And I'll tell you this, their receiving core was better last year than it was this year. Two lottery picks in the NFL and Wilson and Olave, they're gone. Smith and Jigba, stud. Won't even say anything. If you want to watch how good he is, go watch a Rose Bowl last year. He had 44 catches for like 800 yards and 9 touchdowns. So this is what it boils down to. Same thing as was for me. You know, you look at the trio. I will agree with Cottrell on this. I think if you give me C.J. Stroud, Travion Henderson, and Smith and Jigma, I don't think there's a better trio in the country on the same team. I hate to admit that. I think it's just a fact. I will say with the talent Michigan has coming back on offense, I think their offense, it's going to be structured a little bit differently. Obviously, they're run first, whereas Ohio State's a little bit more wide open. I'll take J.J., Donovan, Corum in that wide receiving room. Flashy as Ohio State? No. I think they'll be as productive, though. They're just going to hurt you in more different ways where Ohio State's going to lean on their people a little bit more. I think the big question for Ohio State is their defense. Same thing for Michigan. Michigan lost Aiden, Ojabo, two of their best cover safety, or their best cover safety and their best cornerback. I think everybody's putting a lot of stock in Jim Knowles going to Ohio State. Everybody saw what he did at Oklahoma State with less talent, obviously. I don't think talent's the problem at Ohio State. I think it's their toughness, and I think you saw it last year. They got destroyed in the trenches. They got bullied. They couldn't stop anybody. You saw the whole thing with Eli Ricks transferring. The kids don't want to compete. I think that's the problem on defense. I don't think it's the defensive coordinator. Can Jim Knowles make them tougher? I guess we'll see. Cottrell, the only thing I need you to do, I need you to remember back to 2006. You know what game I'm talking about?
2006.
I wasn't even born.
Ohio. Oh, is that Ohio State, Florida? Or are you talking about Ohio State, Michigan?
Ohio State, Michigan. That game.
That was the 42-39?
Correct. 2006.
Both 1-2 in the country?
1-2. Yep, 1-2 in the polls. I don't think they're going to be 1-2 in the polls this year. I think they're probably going to be 2-4. Michigan's going to walk into the horseshoe this year 11-0, and they're going to play an 11-0 Ohio State game. I don't know if the game's going to live up to that hype, but I think that's where we're going to be. You're going to have a top 4 matchup Thanksgiving weekend in Columbus, Ohio. I'll give the slight edge to Ohio State. I think they're home. They'll have a little bit slightly more experience in the positions where I think it matters. I think it's a shame because, like I said, I wish it was kind of like the Big 12 because I think the next week the two teams should run it back again and play in Indianapolis. But I'm going to go Ohio State to win the East. The West. Yeah, Dante, you can put it up. Who cares? It doesn't matter, and it's the goddamn truth. I don't care. Whoever comes out of the West and plays either Ohio State or Michigan is going to get spanked in the Big Ten championship game just like last year.
I wish I would have did the same thing. Seriously, because the truth is, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's a
Michigan
prep
beat
game for a college football playoff.
It is. Michigan beat Iowa 42-3. Ohio State's had a couple blowouts in their Big Ten championship games. The West is just not up to snuff. Obviously, we can all look forward to 2024 when USC is going to be over there. There's a lot of rumors that they're in discussions with bringing Notre Dame. Notre Dame will go to the West, and that makes everything a lot better. But Gene just stole my graphic. Good job. If I have to pick somebody, I'm going to go with Cottrell. I'm going with Wisconsin. Who knows what you're getting out of Graham Mertz? He's highly recruited 2 years ago. He's been nothing but an inconsistent disappointment. They do bring back the running back. Cottrell probably knows his name. I can't think of it.
Who cares? Doesn't matter.
No, he's really good, though.
He is.
Why can't I think of his name? I don't know. I forget. But I think whoever comes out of the West is going to be 8-4, probably something like that. And you're going to have an undefeated either Ohio State or Michigan team waiting there. I think the biggest factor, Gene already hit it. I think they have to go to Iowa, which I think they win because Wisconsin does return most of their defense. Jim Leonard's a great DC. I think the biggest game of the year is going to be when Minnesota travels to Wisconsin. I'll take Wisconsin at home at Camp Randall. That's a tough bet against for me. Not too many teams go in there and win. I would love
Wisconsin's running backs Braylon Allen.
That's him. So I would love to get on the row the boat tour with Minnesota and the Gophers, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I'll take Wisconsin to win the West. I think Ohio State wins the East, wins the Big Ten. That's all I'm going to say because when we do our college prediction show next week, I will have thoughts about Ohio State and Michigan again.
All right, so I'm going to make a quick open bet offer for you. I will give you 20 points at Michigan. I will. Fun bet. I'll lay 20. Ohio State beats them by 21 plus.
That game is going to be so. I mean, it's always personal, but that one's this year in Ohio State. And Bill, I'm not going to lie to you. I think the worst thing that can happen for you is what's going to happen to you, and that's Cade is going to be named the starter again because JJ can't seem to stay healthy during camp and when it matters. So I think Cade's going to be your starter again. That's going to be the worst possible thing for Michigan.
He's been healthy all camp. What are you talking about?
JJ just got back. He wasn't full go until like the second week of camp.
That's not true. He missed spring practice. He hasn't missed a day of camp. Get your Ohio State sources. Get your Ohio State sources in order, sir.
He wasn't full go until like the second week of camp. That's all I know.
He's been fine. They said he's throwing the ball better than he was.
Listen, I think
they're both going to play a ton the first three games. I think it's going to be whoever.
I agree with that. I agree with that. They both play, but I think down the road, Cade's going to be the starter, and he's going to win you your first 10, 11 games, and then you're going to face your good team, and it's going to be curtains because JJ is not going to be in there to save the day for you.
Cade was enough to beat.
Period.
Cade was enough to win last year.
We'll talk about our college football playoff next week. Our top four. We'll do our top six next week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like we did last year. Our first two out, and then which Michigan will be probably number 6 for me. But just foreshadowing. All right, so let's move into Mount Rushmores. I'm looking forward to getting into this. Chicago versus Detroit. Two tough, cold cities. It looks like we're going to start with Detroit. Detroit's Mount Rushmore is fire. It is very, very good. So let's get into it. We're going to start Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb, Bill, I'll pass it to you, man. I don't talk about 1908 baseball players very well.
You keep saying that. You do realize he retired in like 1930, right? Like 2 years before Babe Ruth did?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, all right. So, Ty Cobb.
Shitty person, though.
What?
Shitty human being.
Oh yeah, there's no arguing that. There's something that came out recently saying they were trying to refute a lot of that, but I don't think it went too far. But so Ty Cobb, if you look at his numbers, they're ridiculous. There's one person that has more hits him in the career of Major League Baseball. It's Pete Rose. He is top 10 in runs and RBIs, batting average. He is I mean, depending on who you ask, some people will argue Ty Cobb is better than Ted Williams. I'm not one of those people, but he's number two. He's number two on that list. And I think maybe one of the most impressive things about him is when you look at his numbers, you'll notice one glaring thing. He drove in, I believe, over 2,200 runs, scored almost 2,000 runs, batted .378 or something like that for his career. And he did all that while only hitting 117 home runs. He has more RBIs than a lot of guys in the 500 home run club. Great hitter. Was
at
a
a
great
361, which is incredible.
Yeah, for a career. So,
but to be fair, and I just kind of want to make this point. You said the ballparks were bigger. A lot of the reasons why you'd have a higher batting average is because the ballparks are bigger. There's more ground to cover. But 361 is still incredible. He batted over 400 3 times.
I get it. I mean, but you look at Babe Ruth's numbers, you look at Lou Gehrig's numbers, they had no problem hitting home runs in the same era, same ballparks. But it's a valid point. He was a very good defensive player as well. Very good base runner all around. Again, another one of those guys. We said it when we were talking about Ted Williams before. And then even more so last week of Roberto Clemente. He was a 5-tool player. Gene did hit on it. Not a good person, not a good human being, but definitely an absolute top 10 baseball player of all time. That's why he's on Detroit's Mount Rushmore.
Well, let me get into Barry Sanders because this is one of my favorite players of all time. I think he's the best running back ever to play the game. Barry Sanders, a humble human being, hand the ball to the referee after you score a touchdown. Talking about 10-time Pro Bowler, 4-time rushing leader, MVP of the league, 6-time first team All NFL, NFL 100th anniversary, 2-time Burt Bell Award winner. His number is retired in Detroit, the number 20, Heisman Trophy winner, Maxwell Award winner. I don't know how many more things you can say about this man, but this was the greatest running back I ever got the pleasure of watching play football, and that's Barry Sanders.
Barry is, for my money, he's the best running back ever too. And I agree everything you said. The way he moved, honestly, he's as shifty as like the guys that still play right now. And I think that Barry, if he hadn't been in Detroit in a situation where he was just, damaged goods basically, because Detroit, he was the bright spot for a sore site, or however the saying goes. He was a situation where Detroit couldn't get anything right, and he ended his career early. I think if Barry's on a competent team that had just a decent O-line and just decent pieces around him, numbers wise, I think he would have been best. Numbers wise, would have been the best RB ever, not just what we saw. So, Barry,
most tackle for losses running back ever too. He had negative 1,600 yards tackle behind the line of scrimmage.
I think the biggest travesty, and I mean, Gene touched on this a little bit. He did everything the right way. There was never a spiking of the football. It was like you see with some college kids still, over the goal line, go hand the ball to the referee. Was never a showy guy. Talented. I mean, vision and feet wise, I don't think it's even debatable about anybody being any better. The biggest travesty is that his loyalty went against him. He stayed in Detroit. He wouldn't leave. I can't imagine what his numbers would have looked like if he would have played, say, behind Dallas's offensive line or something like that.
He might have ran for 3,000.
Yeah. And all these nut job Cowboy fans that always want to argue that Emmitt Smith, not even close. I'll give Emmitt Smith his due for his longevity and his putting up big numbers. He ran behind one of the best offensive lines ever. He had nowhere near the talent of Barry Sanders. Nowhere near the talent.
Joe Louis is third on the list. Successfully defended the heavyweight championship 25 times. More than any other champion in any division ever. Scoring 21 knockouts. One of the greatest runs ever for a heavyweight boxer that you can ever even think of. And then fourth on the list is Gordie Howe. And he's not fourth on anyone's list unless you're talking about the fourth greatest hockey player ever to play the game. So I think that this is a very, very good Detroit list. Any comments on Lewis or Howe?
I think the cool thing about Lewis is, you know, and I'm going to let Cottrell go on Lewis a little bit more than me, but I think the cool thing about him is it wasn't like his adopted hometown per se. Like he was from there. Like Joe Lewis is a Detroit guy, stayed there his whole life, did a lot for the community. And like you said, man, he went on, one of the better ages for heavyweight boxing, and just went on a tear, and he just couldn't be beat. One of the best to ever do it, top 5 heavyweight of all time.
Yeah, so I mean, Joe Lewis, of course, we know how special he is. One like you said, Bill, one of the best heavyweight fighters of all time. The other thing that I did want to mention with Joe Lewis is that his influence to guys, when you think about like that heavyweight division, usually heavyweight's always like the best division, and they have the most popular guys and all that. Joe Lewis was one of the originators of that. And when I think about Joe Lewis, I think about him being from Detroit because of, like you said, Bill, he wasn't an adopted guy there. I think the Pistons named their, not the Pistons, someone's named there. They've named arenas and things like that around the city after Joe Lewis.
The Red Wings old arena was Joe Lewis Arena.
Yeah. So I 100% think Joe deserves to be on here, and he was special. What you said, Gene, about his title defenses is crazy.
I'm kind of sick that Isaiah Thomas didn't make this list. But let's get into it, because it would have been great to put him up against Michael with another rivalry. But let's get into Chicago. And I lined it up the best way I could. Chicago's Mount Rushmore. Let's introduce it, but it's got to start with Air Jordan. It's got to start with the greatest basketball player ever to lace up the sneakers. You want to talk about 6-time NBA champion, 6-0 in finals, scoring champion, all the accolades you can think of, but also transitioned the game more than anyone. The Jordan brand, the Nike brand, was not a thing before Michael Jordan. They were just a young up-and-coming dream team. Michael did it all. His last 6 competitive years, he won all 6 of them. So Michael Jordan is number 1 greatest athlete in any sport.
I don't have much to say. He's the GOAT. He's on top of this Mount Rushmore. He's obviously going to lead any list that we ever put up here. And he's by far the most famous athlete in Chicago. So, I don't know how much time we really have to spend on Michael.
Yeah,
Next,
for what
I don't
Michael,
want you hating on him.
For what Michael did for the sport, how he grew it, how much his sneakers influence us still now. You guys hit everything on the head. Second best basketball player of all time.
There it is.
Just Michael Jordan. He's incredible. I can't take anything away from him.
Didn't he have him 3rd when he did the list? Oh no, that was that scrub from ESPN. Second.
Nick Wright.
Yeah, Nick Wright had him 3rd.
Oh, he's from Fox, idiot.
Second or 3rd greatest running back ever to play the game, sweetness, Walter Payton. Walter Payton ran behind that 85 Bears to a Super Bowl championship. He was absolutely unbelievable. He was shifty. He was strong. He did everything right in the backfield. Walter Payton was a stud. I don't have many bad things to say about him. I think the difference between him and Barry Sanders was Barry Sanders, to me, was just a little bit more elusive and played behind a worse team. I think Walter, if you ever watched the 85 Bears 30 for 30, it's one of the greatest ones ever, but you'll kind of learn a little bit more about Walter Payton and his little bit of selfishness. But other than that, I ain't got much bad to say about Walter Payton.
Not the best teammate in the world. There was a lot of egos. There's a lot of egos on that Chicago Bears team. A lot of big personalities. And then you had Mike Ditka steering the ship. So yeah, not the most stable human either. So, but they could play football. I think the one thing that always stuck out to me about Walter Payton, even when I was little and I saw him, did some things unorthodox, but he could get away with it because, like Gene said, he was so athletic. You watch some of his highlights of him literally just hurdling like over the line, like not jumping head first, like hurdling over people at the line of scrimmage, like just crazy highlights. He was one of those guys that always kept the ball out in his hand. He didn't tuck it all the time. Almost carried it. It was just like a basketball. But yeah, I mean, great running back, super athletic, put up big numbers. Didn't have the longest career of anybody. But like Gene said, it's, he's either 2 or 3, depending on where you want to put Jim Brown and maybe somebody else. And he had the luxury of playing on a couple of really good football teams. I also have Barry, slightly number 1 over him, but Walter Payton was a stud.
Next, we got Ernie Banks, and Ernie Banks, Mr. Chicago.
Yep.
That's what he was known for. 2-time NL MVP, Gold Glove Award winner. He was a home run leader, RBI leader. His number 14 is retired in Chicago Cubs. He's in the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame, and he's in the MLB All-Century team, which is very tough to do, considering they do not have many positions in that. He's a 14-time All-Star and first ballot Hall of Famer. So
Ernie Banks, like Hank Aaron, played at a very high level for a very, very long time. Again, probably the most celebrated Cubs player ever. Could hit for power, could hit for average. Gene touched on all the All-Stars and winning RBI crowns and home run crowns. The guy could do everything, and he was good defensively as well. I think he finished his career at first base. Can't remember where he originally played, but I know his last couple of years he played first. But yeah, I mean he's probably top 20, somewhere around there all time in that ballpark.
Next one, Bobby Hull. Bobby Hull is 3-time leading scorer, 2-time MVP, 2-time 4-time MVP because he won the MVP in the WHA twice.
Yep.
So 4-time MVP and inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1983. Stanley Cup champion with the Blackhawks in 1961.
Blackhawks best player by far, and they've had some good ones. You have, for the people that are a little bit younger, he's Brett Hull's father. Brett Hull was a stud as well. He was another one, he transcended the game a little bit. He was a little bit ahead of his time with the way he played hockey. He was kind of one of the first, I don't know if you want to use the word power forward, but he was a little bit physical, but he could skate like a gazelle. Great shot, great hands. Like Gene said, he won 4 cups. He was just really, really good. I mean, he's another one. He's top 15 or 20 ever all time.
There's the tough part. We got to vote.
I didn't struggle with this one as much as I thought I would.
Really? This is tough to me.
This is tough to me.
Why don't you start since you didn't struggle?
My winner is Chicago. I think Chicago's all around. They just got the better athletes. You got of course you got Jordan, who was 6-0. You got guys across the board who we talked about Chicago, a couple days ago, and we were figuring out who was going to be on their Mount Rushmore. It was easy for Chicago. The 4 was their 4, and with Detroit, we did struggle a little bit, and that a part of that is because of there was great people in Detroit, but also there was a part of it where they just weren't as clear cut. There wasn't as much clear cut dominance in Detroit. So for me, I think Chicago has more greatness. So I'm going with Chicago.
So the tough part for me, and I'll break it down for you. I have Detroit winning 3 out of the 4 positions. So, but I don't know if Michael Jordan's gap is so much bigger than Ty Cobb. So if you line them up, right? This is the way I kind of lined them up, the way we did it. Michael Jordan is a huge gap over Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb is top 10 baseball player. Michael Jordan's a GOAT. Huge difference. Walter Payton and Barry Sanders, 1A, 1B. I mean, when you get into Ernie Banks versus Joe Louis is greater all time as an overall athlete. And then when you go to, and I think Gordie Howe's better than Bobby Hull. If I'm just being, Gordie Howe's number 4 to me. Bobby Hull's like 7 or 8. So when I'm breaking this down, I think Detroit wins 3 out of 4, but I think the difference is Michael Jordan, and I'm going to go to Chicago also.
I'm going to go Chicago as well, slightly. I think the way I kind of broke it down is not exactly the same as you just did it, but it's similar. If you wanted to go, we'll agree that the gap between Barry and Walter Payton is slim. It's not a huge gap between Ernie and Ty Cobb, and then Michael just trumps anybody else on the Detroit list. However you want to slice it. So I will go with Chicago as well.
Okay, so it's a sweep. Chicago moves on. Control's got the whole list. We're crossing them out as we do it. And once we get to our final 32, we're going to have a full bracket, and we'll create it, and we'll seed it based off our votes. So, gentlemen, let's move on. We have a couple more things to talk about before we wrap up the show. Tennis and golf. I will lead it to you, Shally. And the only reason I want to talk about tennis is because Serena Williams, last U.S. Open ever. So, Shally.
We will start with tennis. U.S. Open starts on Sunday. If you're not familiar, it's held in New York, USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, Flushing Meadows. I've said it before numerous times on this show. The complex itself is incredible. It's incredible. If you want to have a good time, and some people will say this is going to sound silly, but I'm telling you, you won't have a bad time. Go buy tickets to a night session and go sit in that stadium and watch tennis. The stadium that holds about 18,000 people to watch a tennis match. And if you get lucky enough and you get a match that goes to like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, it's more fun than you'll have at a lot of other sporting events. It's a New York crowd, and it gets wild. It gets crazy. It's so much fun. But that being said, Gene touched on the biggest headline of the tournament, even more so than Novak probably not going to be able to play because it doesn't look like he's going to get a last-second exemption to get into the country. So that kind of sucks. But the biggest headline by far, this is going to be Serena's farewell tournament. This is going to be it. I think everybody on the show included would consider her the best female tennis player ever. She pretty much came out and said that this is going to be it. She said she's not going to retire. She wants to, evolve into what she's going to do next in her life. She wants to have another child. I don't know how long this farewell moment is going to last. I think that's something that, that's a little concerning to me. She's played the last 2 tournaments. She has not looked great. I think she'll play a little bit better in front of those big crowds. They're absolutely 100% going to schedule her on center court for all her matches till she loses. She will have the crowd behind her. And listen, it's if you follow tennis or you like it or you've been around or followed her career, it's going to be an emotional moment. I mean, she's the greatest player, and she's stepping away from the sport. I remember watching back in the early 2000s when, my favorite player of all time is Andre Agassi. And I remember when he lost and, he said goodbye, and it sucked, man. I mean, it's tennis is one of those things where if you do follow it, you get attached to a person. It's not a team. So if that person stops playing, that's kind of it. You got to find a new
I never
person.
knew that about you, though. That's my favorite player ever, too, Andre Agassi.
Yep. Love him.
I used to root for him versus Pete every Sunday.
I know. I couldn't stand Pete Sampras. So yeah, I mean, she's going to dominate. I mean, the best thing for the U.S. Open is she finds it and she makes a run. You get her into a couple, later in the tournament, and it's, I almost feel like the pressure comes off of her and goes on to who she's playing because the crowds are going to be nuts. But this is going to be it. I wish her well. I mean, we can go into our picks here. I have a couple picks and long shots, but it's going to be sad to see her go. She's been great for the sport. If you know anything about her life, where her and both her sister Venus came from, to get to this level and both play as well as they did is kind of incredible considering where they came from and considering they're African American. It's a hell of a story. It really is.
All right, so I'm gonna make my prediction on the tournament, and I'm gonna make it very clear. I could see this going one of two ways. I could see Serena winning it all, or I could see her passing the torch. She's not. If she passes the torch, I don't know if they meet up. I'm just saying this.
I know where you're going.
One of the up and coming Coco Gauff. I think that would be that. That's my 2 predictions. I think Serena wins the tournament, though. I think it's the Derek Jeter say goodbye, swan song.
I will tell you this: the way she's played the last 2 weeks in Toronto and Cincinnati, and I mean, not look good, like not look good at all. If she somehow wins this tournament after not playing most of the year, that is a bigger. I know how Jeter went out, and I'm telling you, this is 10 times better than the way Jeter went out if she wins the tournament. And it's not close. It's not debatable. Don't give me any of your Yankee crap or anything like that. That would be just an insane moment.
I agree.
I'm glad you brought up Coco. She's my long shot. She's played well the last month since I got back on hard courts. I think she has a shot. I do. I'm picking Simona Halep to win the tournament. She's plus 750. She won Cincinnati 2 weeks ago. Made it deeper on last week. She's taking this week off. But I'm going to go with Simona Halep to win. Coco Gauff is my long shot. I think she's got a shot to, for lack of a better term, like Gene said, to pick up the mantle and be the next great American woman tennis player.
Control?
Yeah, I mean, all that's nice and all. Feel good stories and all that. I'm going with the best tennis player in the world. And that's Iga. She's gonna go win this tournament, and I think she's gonna dominate. I think she gets back to her true form, and she's gonna show everyone why she's the best tennis player on the planet. I'm pretty confident in it too.
Control continues to win the award for the most heartless person on the show. Yeah, all that Serena stuff's good and all, but
best female tennis player in the world, and I think she's gonna go and she's gonna dominate this tournament.
Iga's had a great year. She had her 39 match win streak or whatever it was. She's gone out early the last 2 warm-up tournaments, though. She has not looked good, so see if she finds it. But she is very good. I will agree with Cottrell. If she shows up and plays well, then it might be a wrap. On the men's side,
this golf stuff.
You got to do men's, bro.
You got to do the men's side.
All right, go ahead.
I wanted to pick Novak. But like I said, I don't think he's going to get in. I don't think anything's going to change in the next couple of days to where he's going to be able to let in. So I'm going to go with the defending champion. I'm going to go with Daniil Medvedev. He's hungry. He hasn't been able to play in the middle of the year because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The U.S. Open's going to let him play. So I think he repeats. He's fresher than everybody else. He hasn't played as much tennis. A little bit of a head case. The New York crowds do not like him. He does not get along with them. So that's always interesting to watch. But I think there's a chance he repeats. My long shot for the men is the same guy I picked last year, and he screwed me over a little bit, but he's trending upwards in the right direction this year. I'm going with Stefanos Tsitsipas, the other Greek freak. He'll be my long shot at plus 1,400. I think he can make a run.
You got one, Gene?
I got the winner. It's going to be John McEnroe over Andre Agassi in the finals. Oh, that's not what it is. Is Federer still playing? I'm kidding. Yeah, Control.
I got the greatest tennis player to ever play on clay. I know it's not clay at the U.S. Open. Rafa Nadal is going to win this tournament. I always have the confidence in Rafa. I felt bad for him. Was it the last major where he had to bow out for, I think he had an injury. But I think he's going to come back hungry. And between him and Medvedev, those are really the only two, I think, powerhouses that are going to be playing this tournament. So I think Rafa beats a lot of guys with experience, and we know how special Medvedev is. If he's not the second best on tour, he's probably the third best. So, Medvedev's definitely special right now, but I'm rolling with Rafa to take home that U.S. Open crown.
I'm going Joker.
It's probably not playing.
Okay. Going Joker.
Casual Gene.
Zero casual. Not fan Gene.
I'll take you up there one year. You'll have a blast.
All right, tell me about this hitting the ball thing.
Oh, golf. PGA Tour FedEx Cup Tour Championship this weekend. Last tournament of the year that matters. East Lake Golf Club, Atlanta, historic, right outside Atlanta, historic golf course. FedEx Cup playoff winner gets like $10 million, I think it is, somewhere right around there. They do the staggered scoring based upon your FedEx Cup points. So Scotty Scheffler is actually going to start at -10. That's the way they do this. Whoever the leader is starts at -10, and then it goes down from there. He's actually not going to be my pick to win, though. As good as he's playing this year, I'm going to pick Rory to win, Rory McIlroy to win, hold the cup. A little bit of a conspiracy theory tinfoil hat for me on this. I think it'd be a great look for the PGA Tour if he does win, considering he's kind of the face of the tour now. I think it'd be another kind of middle finger towards the LIV Tour. And the one thing that Rory's kind of shown over the last 3 or 4 years is when he has to play catch-up mode and he has to play a little bit loose, he plays better than what he does when he's tied or, close to the leaderboard. He's going to start at -4, so he's going to start 6 shots back from Scheffler right off the get-go. I think that's when you see the best Rory, when he goes out and he attacks the golf course. So I think over the course of 4 days, he can catch Scotty Scheffler. So I'm going Rory McIlroy, +900 to win.
Trell?
I'm also going Rory McIlroy here. So, Bill, I'm 100% on board. This is a guy who, he always plays well on this course. So I think Rory is 100% going to be that guy. I don't even have any long shots. That's how confident I am in Rory this upcoming weekend.
I like it.
I'm going to go with Patrick Cantlay. I think Patrick Cantlay wins. He's only 2 shots behind Scotty Scheffler to start, and I think Cantlay wins the tournament. If you want a long shot, I got a really good one for you. I think that John Rahm +1200 starts at -3. I think him attacking the course will be your long shot.
Gene, I'm gonna give you your due here. You got John Rahm at +1400. Get your more long than what you said. So
cool.
Keith Sarin just said Cameron Smith wins. That would be the most interesting outcome. Because if you haven't heard the rumor, he's apparently leaving the PGA Tour after this tournament's over. That would be diabolical for him to sit there and win that tournament, hold up that trophy, and then just pretty much give a middle finger to the PGA Tour and say, I'm out of here. That would be good TV. I'll tell you that.
All right, let's get into You Got to Be Kidding Me. Kittrell.
All right, so mine this week is a play that's been pretty controversial through all of NFL Spaces for whatever reason, and that's the Thaddeus Moss block on Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't know why this has been so controversial. It was a legal block, and it's unfortunate that Kayvon got hurt, but that's football. You can have whatever opinion you want on the block itself, but it was a legal play, and you just kind of got to get over it. You got to be kidding me, though, is Rich Eisen. Rich Eisen tweeted that, Thaddeus Moss should be suspended and he should be fined and suspended for that block, and nothing else would do. Rich Eisen's a guy who covers so much football. We see him run at the combine and things like that. He should know the rules of the game. I understand if you don't like the block being a part of football, but you have to understand that's a legal block. And a guy like that, Moss, I know Rich Eisen's words on TV and his words on Twitter aren't impacting the league's decisions, but you can't say things like that, give casual fans or just people in general this notion and idea that was potentially a dirty play and, he should be suspended for it. So for me this week, Rich Eisen. Come on, you got to be kidding me.
Great job, Kittrell. Shally.
So it's Big 10 week, so you went after a Michigan guy? Is that how this is going to go?
That's what he does.
Good, because you got to be kidding me. It's Fox Sports hiring that scumbag Urban Meyer back to be on their morning show for college football this week. Listen, I don't care what he did in Jacksonville. It's all terrible. There's a book that just came out documenting all of it. It's apparently worse than we all thought it was. Here's my big thing. We're talking about college football. These are kids. These guys get on there and talk about, how you got to handle things and how coaches got to do this, coaches got to do that. I don't want to hear Urban Meyer talk about any of that. He's the worst possible example setter for young men, impressionable young men that there is. Fox Sports didn't even have the balls to have a big press release. They buried him in the Friday afternoon press release about rehiring him because they didn't want any shit for it. So this week, Fox News, Urban Meyer, you guys all suck. That's you gotta be kidding me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Mine's actually a fun one. I don't have like a real like you got to be kidding me moment, except it's like a you got to be kidding me in a good way. I don't know if you guys seen this, but O'Neal Cruz from the Pittsburgh Pirates hit a ball 122.4 miles per hour this week, and it was the hardest hit ball ever tracked.
That was today.
Today. It's absolute. If you haven't watched it, it's just the hardest hit single you'll ever see in your entire life. He smokes a line drive that might not go 9 feet off the ground, off the wall, just absolutely destroys it.
To put it in perspective for you, he's a left-handed batter. Okay, so you're already a little bit closer to the box. He hit the ball so hard it bounced off the wall to Acuna, who then turned around on one hop. By the time he turned around, it was already bouncing back to him. One hop and lobs it back into second base. He hit the ball off the wall. Most time you see balls off the wall, guys have doubles. Acuna lobs the ball back to second base, and he's not even at first base yet. That's how hard this ball was hit. It's incredible.
Smoked.
Incredible.
So that's my you got to be kidding me this week. Do me a favor if you're listening to us. Go on our Facebook page and leave us a review, a 5-star review. Spotify, download a couple episodes, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Reviews, subscriptions, downloads. They're the closest thing in my heart. They'll help us keep us going. I appreciate that. Let me just say a thank you to ECG, to Dante, to the whole crew there, to engineering, the comments. He's got the facts through the private chat, man. Love that, man. Thank you so much. And do you guys have any final thoughts?
I actually have a couple things. So, Cottrell, if you have anything, you can go.
I got nothing unless you start hating on Ohio State again.
No, we're even. You went after Rich Eisen, and I went after Urban Meyer. That's how it goes. It's college football season. It's time to get after each other now. I got a couple things. First thing, if you haven't heard, Coach Gary Gaines from Odessa Permian, he passed away this week, unfortunately. He was the guy that the movie Friday Night Lights was based around. It was the guy that Billy Bob Thornton played. Legendary coach in Texas. Also, yesterday, Len Dawson, quarterback from KC. You might have saw him on TV. He was a commentator inside the NFL for a while on Showtime. He also has a legendary photo of the guy sitting on the chair smoking a cigarette at the halftime of the Super Bowl before he went out and won in the second half. One of the true first really pioneer good quarterbacks in the league. He passed away yesterday, unfortunately. On to some happier things. Got to congratulate my friend Gene Noser as well. Deanna Myers had her baby this week finally. Little baby boy, Keith Jr. Everybody's healthy and well. Congrats on them. And last but certainly not least, big congratulations go out to Mr. Cottrell Simpson and Mr. and Mrs. Audio System for both getting their masters and being done. Congratulate both you guys. Proud of both of you. Great job. And, keep killing it, both of you. You guys are turning into a power couple.
Whoa. We got to give one more shout out. Thank you, Dante. Marcus in the cut. Marcus is at a hospital right now. His wife's water just broke. Marcos, listen to the show. Follow our ECG. Met him. Awesome human being. Just wanted to give him a shout out too. Marcos, I hope that the pregnancy the childbirth is perfect. And I wish you the best. You're in my prayers right now for having that child right now. So thank you, Dante, for adding that. That's it. This is show 98, Wire to Wire, signing out.